Hey guys, Sam from the F1 Life here, and welcome back to the second of our brand new and exclusive interviews here on our channel. Today, I got the opportunity to have a bit of a chin wag with the 2017 F1 eSports champion, Brendon Leigh. Here's my awesome conversation with our reigning champion, so sit back, relax, turn the volume up, and I hope you enjoy. Right, welcome to Brendon Leigh, who is joining me today for another brand new and exclusive interview here on the F1 Live. Brendon is the reigning and inaugural champion of the F1 eSports back in November at Abu Dhabi. Following his success in the F1 eSports series, Brendon took the tarmac as part of the e-racing team in the Race of Champions this year. So Brendon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Brendon Leigh. I come from Reading, UK, and I'm a sim racer.
Nice, so I guess let's start off with the obvious one. Who was it that got you into motorsports and how?
Well, as a kid, I was involved in motocross quite heavily. So, it was my childhood idol was very much Stefan Everts. He was a 10 times motocross champion. So that's really what kick-started my love for motorsport as a child. Then I started watching F1 in 2007, 2008 era when Lewis Hamilton got involved, and then naturally being a fan of Formula One, I picked up the game on F1 2010 and been playing the F1 games ever since.
Nice. So, which console did you start off with then, with the F1 games?
Uh, I started off on Xbox 360.
Yeah, nice. So at that time, were you able to tell that there was anything special going on? Were you instantly hooked, or what happened?
Oh yeah, I was instantly hooked because naturally being a competitive person, you always want that challenge of winning and that satisfaction of winning. From the start, I didn't really know because I didn't have my parents wouldn't let me have Xbox Live till F1 2012, I think it was. So I was only racing the AI at that time, and obviously you can't really compare anything against the AI.
Oh,
So I didn't there, but I definitely enjoyed playing the games quite a lot.
nice. So going from there, which do you think was your favorite F1 game that you've played?
I'm gonna have to be a bit biased and say F1 2017.
Well, for the obvious reasons, I guess.
Yeah.
But which F1 game has, or which racing game in general, has influenced your style the most?
I would probably say F1 2014 because that's when I kick-started my sort of competitive almost career, if you want to call it like that.
Yeah.
That's when I started on F1 games. We take part in league races, and that's when I started taking part in league races against competitive people on a competitive standpoint. So that's when I really started elevating myself and learning a lot about the game and my skills.
Okay, so following on from the previous question, has there been a certain F1 driver that has had the greatest impact on your driving style and your on-track actions?
I don't think there's a driver that's influenced my driving style and my on-track actions. If there was, it would probably be Lewis Hamilton. But I'm generally a big believer in what doing your own style of driving. If you try to copy somebody else, you'll never be as good as them. So I sort of adapted my own style, my own aggression, my own sort of way of driving for myself.
Nice. So let's flash forward to 2017. Surely this had to be your biggest year yet, right?
Yeah, it was quite a weird year because at the start of the year it was just nothing really happening. Then about August time, the F1 Esports got announced, and I thought I could have a chance of winning it. Obviously, there's quite big competition around in the community, so I knew it was going to be a challenge. But then it wasn't really until the semi-final when obviously I won my first race by 8 seconds and my
Yeah.
second race in Silverstone by over 10 seconds. And I realised, oh, I have a chance. I really have a chance at this, and that's when the intensity went up a lot.
But how many hours a day do you reckon you put in to prepare for the whole series?
Oh, more than I care to admit. It was probably a good from the semi-finals to the final. I upped my practice quite a lot because obviously the final you want to win that one. The semi-final you don't really care if you're honest. If you just want to get to the final, but the final you really want to win. I was putting in from the weeks probably about 20 to 40 hours per week.
Wow, that's obviously a lot. So a big commitment for you. How would you balance that with your social life, or like work or school, whatever?
It was more just a case of doing it whenever you was free. Like obviously you still had to go to work, you still had to do stuff, you still had to have a life. But For me, I was enjoying sim racing so much at that time that I enjoyed more than going out. For example, some people might frown upon that, but for me, it was quite a good thing because um, I'm a big believer in just doing what you enjoy. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. And I was enjoying sim racing so much at that point, I didn't really go out, to be honest.
So this was probably the top of your priorities then, would you say? The whole esports series.
Yeah, it was very close to the top of my priorities, just from how much I was enjoying it.
Okay, what were you thinking heading into the F1 Esport Grand Final? Sorry, were you expecting what was to come, or how
Well,
did you?
obviously, you have to believe in yourself that you can win it before you even start racing. Um, Obviously, there was a bit of tension. There was a bit of it was a weird feeling because obviously that was my first time ever being on a plane, my first time ever being abroad. So it was a weird feeling being in a different country for the first ever time. All my 18 years of my life has always been spent in one time zone, so to suddenly get thrown into a different time zone was very strange, and it was a big disadvantage in my opinion because everybody else had almost everybody else had an advantage in the sense that they knew what it was like and they could adapt to it, whereas I was getting thrown in the deep end and being effectively told to swim in effect. And I think I adapted it quite well, but it was definitely the best experience of my life.
Okay, so leading on from that answer, would there be anything you would change in the whole organization of the esports series, or would you keep it the same?
There's some stuff I've talked to the organisers about, but I'm not sure if I can say it publicly because I think
That's
I'm under
fine.
contract.
Okay, that's fine. So the final race at Abu Dhabi, obviously a big race for you. We saw you get very animated during the race with all the on-track action going on. How hard was it to keep calm and maintain your focus under all the pressure?
Well, for me, keeping calm was wave my arms about, but yeah, it was definitely quite hard to keep your focus because obviously if you look at the lineup, if you, I don't know if you've seen the photos of it, but we had 20 rigs all in a line basically. We was literally within touching distance of the next driver, so we can literally, if we wanted to, we could stick our elbow out and hit the other driver. That's how close we was. And then when driving, um, out of our POV, our vision, we could see the other people to the right and left of us, just about. And then we had a camera going up like a pan shot in front of us, and we could see it every time it moved past. And obviously, the camera was on me quite a lot, so it was pretty, it was quite a big distraction. But yeah, once you're zoned in, it's not so bad. But yeah, it's definitely really difficult to keep your focus, especially with all the drama, let's call it, what was going on.
Okay, so what was going through your mind exactly when you crossed the line? Were you already aware that you were champion, or was it something you just kept at the back of your mind?
There was so much going on in my mind when I crossed the line. It was I was more in shock than anything. That is why my reaction was so reserved because I was so in shock. Because if you think about it from my point of view, on lap 11, I've lost a championship. Then suddenly on the last lap, on my last time to my last opportunity, because I wouldn't have passed him anywhere else on the track. That was my last ever opportunity to win the championship. Then to suddenly win it, then he cut the corner. I was like, oh my god, I've lost it again. And then you can think about my emotions going like a roller coaster. So I was still in shock after I crossed the line, and even when the cameras got turned off, I was still in shock, like because I didn't want to believe it.
So obviously a lot going through your mind there. But just how did the whole thing change your life? Does it have a massive impact on you today, or?
Yeah, like the whole event, even if I didn't win it, it boosted my confidence so much. Um, just I'm a big believer in being thrown into a strange environment and learning to adapt. That's where my confidence comes from. And I was thrown into the most different scenario that I've ever been to in my life. I adapted really quickly and really well, and I gained so much confidence from that. And even today, I'm still gaining confidence from it.
So what's been the best thing you've gained from the whole experience then? Would you say this
I
this
It's
sudden?
got to be the eROC. It's
Of
got to be
course,
the eROC opportunity.
you've beat me to my next question then. So you also got the chance to compete in the eROC event. But how does this experience compare to the esports, for example? Was it?
I think the eROC event was much funner and much more chilled. Obviously, in the F1 eSports, it was so much more stressed out because we did 3 races over one weekend with practice sessions, qualifying, and the real life track going on next to us, what we could hear. Even though we had noise cancelling headphones on, we could still hear the cars going by. Um, Whereas at eROC, it was much more chilled and a lot more relaxed atmosphere. Obviously, we wanted to win,
Yeah,
but just being there was really cool, knowing that okay, maybe if we don't win, that's not the end of the world. If it makes any sense.
yeah, yeah. But obviously you were there with lots of other professional real life drivers. What was their attitude to you guys? How did they feel about you coming in from online to the real world?
I think a lot of them were quite optimistic. They wanted to see what we could do. You should have seen their faces when I told them I've never got my car license. I've never driven a car before, and the event organisers were quite impressed. Well, I wouldn't say impressed, but they was quite shocked about it as well because it was quite a funny story. I literally told them as I was driving off, I haven't got my license or I haven't driven a car, and you should have seen the look on our driving instructor's face.
So naturally, what's the biggest difference from going from real life to the sim? How does your sim racing background affect your experience on track?
I think the biggest difference was being thrown about in the car.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the sim, we're so static, unless you're waving your arms about like I was, but won't go into that. But in the real life car, because we didn't have our seat fitting, so for me, I'm 5'4", quite a small person, so I was getting thrown around in the seat quite a lot. So that's a major difference from sim racing. Like I said earlier, was static, whereas in the real car, when I was braking, I was moving forward slightly. When I was accelerating, I was moving backwards. Same left to right when turning, and the same goes. And you can feel the suspension. And it was such a cool sensation. You can feel the brake disc. You can feel the suspension. You can feel the tire. It's almost like tissue. You can actually feel it, the grip of the car, and it's such a cool feeling.
So maybe the next step is get a full-on motion simulator for you then.
I would love to get a motion simulator, but it's not worth it with the F1
No,
eSports being on static rigs.
exactly. To end my questions, I'm sure many of the people that are here will be interested in the sim racing aspect of things. What are your top three pieces of advice to aspiring sim racers?
I think my biggest piece of advice would always be you can't win every single race, but try to finish every race with a smile because then you can look back on your mistakes and improve on them. If you finish a race with a bad attitude and almost refusing to go look back at your mistake, I've done that in the past, so it's not anything to be ashamed of. Um, you won't ever improve on it, and then it will take you 10 times longer to learn. And my second piece of advice would always be it's the most frustrating thing in the world to improve your lap time. It takes time. It takes so long to get to the very top because sim racing is so competitive. Um, so don't ever lose your cool and just make sure. And the third one is just make sure you're having fun with it. For me personally, I don't sim race if I'm not having fun. If I'm not having fun, I turn my computer off and go do something else. Even if I got a race, I'll much rather go and have fun than um, sit there boring myself and almost treating it like a job.
Nice. So, following on from that, sorry. For people who want to do or want to compete in the F1 esports or something, how would you recommend they practice for such an event?
Well, at the moment, I do league racing in a league called Apex Online Racing. It's
Hmm.
so competitive. Like, for example, we've got a new season coming up in, I think, 10 days' time. We've got names of Bono Huis, Enzo Benito, me, Graham Carroll. Like, there's so many big names in that league. And I'm a big believer to get to the best, you have to race the best first. And if you're looking to improve, join Apex Online Racing and you'll improve massively.
Of course. So, okay, let's move on to some of the questions from our followers. First, we've got one from at Jamie Wild Erasmus who asks, "What was your motivation to keep you going during the esports series?"
I think it's just a hunger to always win. You always want to win. It's just this sort of burning desire that you just have to keep on winning and keep on focusing on that one goal. I think that was my biggest motivation.
Nice. Next one is from at Vettel Fanbase on Instagram. Could F1 esports become one of the biggest esports series in the world, and could it bring fresh talent to actual F1?
Yeah, I think it can be the biggest esports, motorsport esports in the world. I don't think it'll be the biggest esports because you have the likes of Dota and League of Legends, what are just light years ahead of us at this moment in time. But in terms of motorsport, without a doubt, it can be the biggest. And within its first season, it challenged the likes of the Vegas E race, and all the big names already. So this season, what's coming up, it's going to be amazing.
Exactly.
Um,
Oh, sorry. You carry on. My bad.
nah, I forgot what the second part of the question was.
Apologies. Yeah, I was just
That's my
gonna
fault.
say that obviously with the first season under the belt, such a massive event from a viewer's perspective, just seeing um the whole event unfold and on such a big scale as well. It's just such a promising thing for years to come. I mean, you got to fly out to Abu Dhabi, you got to watch the race, you got to compete there, you got to compete in London. There's so much stuff, such a massive hype around the whole thing, and as I said, just in the first year alone, the whole opportunities that you guys have gotten is just amazing to see, and that's surely just gonna grow in the years to come.
Oh yeah, it's going to continue to grow, and from a TV and a spectator point of view, for an 18-year-old to get flown to Abu Dhabi, it's almost unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah,
So it's such a promising, and hopefully in coming years, parents will be a bit more supportive of the esport route, almost in the job line, and that's when it will really take off in terms of when the parents support it. That's when the careers will become true.
nice. Next question is from F1 Humor Official, and he would like to know how you've managed to drive so quickly and efficiently without assists.
It's just really just constantly grinding away at the small mistakes and analyzing the small mistakes. It's just also just putting in constant hours of work throughout the last couple of years, and it almost you have to get it to the point where it's almost in the subconscious mind, and you're not having to think about it anymore. Once it's in the subconscious mind, then you'll win races without a doubt.
So it's all that whole practice makes perfect and just getting used to the
Yeah,
whole experience, isn't it?
yeah, it's just practice makes perfect.
Right, I think this is the final one from the followers. This last one is from almost everyone in the comments, to be honest. What is ahead for you in your future? What do you try to make it into real cars, or is your focus set on the coming up esports series?
Well, obviously the F1 esports is going to be my main focus for the next few years because I know that's going to be a consistent baseline what I can do well in. Um, if the opportunity came up in real cars, I'll take it with both hands. I wouldn't look back at it. So we'll have to see if there's an opportunity in real cars soon. I like to hope there is. um, but yeah, it's just mainly focused on the F1 esports series and hopefully getting back invited to the eROC series again because that would be a really cool experience.
Yeah, it'll be amazing to see you compete in real cars as well. There's
Yeah, for
definitely
sure.
there's definitely a lot that e-racing or sim racing, whatever you want to call it, it's not that much different to racing on track. It's definitely the best way to get into motorsports, I feel,
Exactly,
especially.
and like there's a few points to that as well. I can't remember the exact figure, but a year in go karting costs. I think international go karting cost like 200,000 euros or pounds. I can't remember what it is. Um, but to buy a simulator, it's a maximum of 5,000. If you think about the cost, and you learn exactly the same traits. Karting is mainly just to prove that you're good at racecraft. That's you can learn that on the simulator, in my opinion. Um, and it's much cheaper. And also, what I proved is without a driving license, without ever driving a car before, just through the preparation of simulators, I was able to get in and show I had car control, be reasonably on the pace without any prior experience and only having simulators to go off by.
Exactly. It's just amazing how accurate the Sims are today, not just in like graphics and tracks, but the whole physics and just whole engine behind it is just amazing to see how much you can do with this sim racing, how much has grown over the past few years, and it's just amazing to see people like you, people from the whole ARR background or just any e-racing community to just come in and prove that you're able to compete on a top level against real life drivers, for example, in eROC, And yeah, it's definitely a great start for now, and that's surely gonna grow and snowball in the future. So
Yeah, it's going to be a very beautiful, bright future.
yeah, for sure. Anyway, I think that wraps it all up. Um, so thank you, Brendon, for spending this time with us today, and of course to all of you who have submitted your questions for Brendon. And good luck from all of us for the year ahead and for the time to come, especially to see what you get up to in the next few years. It'll be it'll be great to see. And again, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. And just to
I know,
end up,
thank you for having me on.
yeah, no worries. Is there anything you would like to say to someone or?
Well, obviously, I would like to thank my team, eSports Plus Cars, and Darren Cox, who set up the team. They've supported me massively and helped me so much in the last few months, and it's been unreal support from them.
That's great. Anyway, thank you, Brendon, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.